the autumn of 539 BCE, Babylon, the jewel of Mesopotamia, fell to the Persian army. The city above burned with smoke and despair, while below, in the forgotten chambers beneath the temple of Marduk, soldiers searching for treasure uncovered something far more dreadful than gold. Their boots crunched through layers of dust, their torches painting the stone walls with restless shadows. They expected to find riches hidden by the priests, but instead, their youngest companion uncovered bones. At first, they assumed it was the bones of a sacrificial animal, but when the flickering light revealed the small frame, the truth hit them. The skeleton was that of a child. The soldiers froze, hardened men suddenly unable to breathe. The body was surrounded not by wealth but by broken idols and clay tablets. When the captain lifted one, the words were hastily carved but unmistakable. "He is beneath." Another tablet warned, "Do not wake what sleeps below." A third tablet carved in trembling hands declared, "The 13th moon brings his return." The soldiers exchanged glances of unease. They had not uncovered treasure but something the Babylonians had hidden at all costs, something buried in secrecy beneath the holiest temple. To understand how the child ended up in this chamber, one must look back 13 years, when the story began with a boy named Shamash-Iddi. Shamash-Iddi was only 13 when the temple delegation came for him. He lived a simple life, helping his father in the market and playing with his younger sister. That morning he had been grinding barley when 3 priests in white robes arrived, accompanied by temple guards and the selector, a woman who chose which child would be taken for sacred service. Her eyes were ancient, full of the weight of too many choices. When she entered the house, his mother's face drained of color. She begged them not to take her son, offering tears, pleas, even threats, but the temple's authority was absolute. The selector ignored the sister, ignored the married older brother, and placed her hand on Shamash-Iddi. "This one," she declared. His mother screamed, clinging to his legs, but the guards pried him away. His father attempted bribes and desperate arguments, but the priests only muttered that the gods had chosen. The boy's heart pounded as he was marched through the streets. His neighbors looked away, their silence betraying that everyone knew what this meant. Boys chosen for the temple's inner rituals never returned. Some families were told their sons had ascended to divine service, but in truth, they vanished into darkness. The temple complex loomed before him, the great ziggurat casting a shadow across Babylon. He had visited the outer courts during festivals, but this time he was led to a hidden entrance guarded by men with no insignia. The small door opened, and cold air seeped out. Inside, the air reeked of incense, oil, and something metallic, something like blood. They took him deep below, past narrow passages lined with unreadable prayers. The sound of chanting drifted from unseen chambers. At last, he was left in a room where a boy about 14 approached. His head was shaved, his body frail, but his eyes were old. "New one," he rasped. Shamash-Iddi nodded. "They will clean you first. Forget who you were. None of it matters here." His words carried the weariness of one who had already been broken. He led Shamash through corridors where boys sat in silence, some rocking, some scratching at walls with broken nails. When Shamash stared too long, the boy whispered, "Don't ask about the ones who are missing. Don't ever ask." That night, Shamash realized he was one of 9 boys, though later the priests would insist there had only ever been 8. The disappearance of the kind boy, Marduk, Nasir, proved how easily memories could be erased. The purification ritual stripped Shamash of everything. His clothes were burned, his head shaved, his body washed in lotus and blood. The priests declared he was no longer Shamash-Iddi but only a vessel, emptied for divine use. A red cord was tied around his waist, never to be removed. Day after day, rituals broke them down. They were denied sleep, forced to chant until their voices cracked, struck when they faltered. When one boy laughed until blood poured from his nose, the priests dragged him away. In the morning, there were only 7 left, though Shamash remembered 8. Each boy was broken differently. One was left in darkness until madness took him. Another was nearly drowned again and again. For Shamash, his breaking came when they burned a small wooden bird, the toy his sister once held. He lunged for it, screaming, but the priests restrained him and threw him into the silence chamber. Days passed without sound or light. When he emerged, he was changed. His voice cracked with age, his eyes hollow. Slowly, the boys began to move alike, to think alike, to share strange dreams. They were being emptied, reshaped, prepared for something that would require them not as children but as vessels. On the 13th night, they were led to the sacred chamber. It was carved from black stone unknown to Babylon, its walls covered in writhing symbols older than history. The chamber held hooks, blades, and restraints stained with blood. At its center was a pit, black and cold, its air shimmering as if alive. The masked high priest spread his arms and declared, "Behold the mouth of Tiamat, the hunger that waits. Every 13 moons it stirs. It must be fed. Only pure vessels satisfy. Only your suffering keeps the binding intact." Shamash Iddy trembled. The red cords around their waists were leashes, tools for lowering them into the pit. The screams that rose from below were not human, at least not anymore. The high priest explained that death was not the goal. They were to be kept alive as conduits, bridges between worlds. The fortunate ones die, he said. The less fortunate serve in other ways. Some persist even now, beneath the stones. Would you like to hear them? The boys shuddered, their fear filling the chamber like incense. For Shamash, the horror had only begun. The following days blurred into torment disguised as preparation. The boys were drilled relentlessly, made to memorize passages in an ancient tongue that caused their noses to bleed and their minds to fracture. The priests, bronze masks hid not only their faces but their scars, the marks of earlier rituals. Shamash wondered if they too had once been vessels who survived. His body ached, his mind cracked, but what haunted him most were the dreams. Each night he dreamed of corridors beneath the earth, corridors that pulsed like living veins, leading always to the pit. In the dream, he would hear his mother's voice calling from the darkness, only for it to twist into something else, something that mocked her memory with laughter not human. The other boys shared similar dreams. It was as though their minds were merging into a single consciousness. On the eve of the new moon, the high priest assembled them around the pit. The air vibrated with whispers from below. The boys clutched their red cords, trembling. "Tonight you will serve," the high priest intoned. "The gateway weakens, and only through your pain can it be bound again." One by one, the boys were suspended over the pit, their bodies twisted by hooks into positions that opened veins but did not kill. Shamash was the last. As they lowered him, the shimmering air licked at his skin like fire and ice. The sound from the pit rose, a chorus of voices that had once been human. He glimpsed movement in the darkness, a shape vast and shifting, eyes that were not eyes, a hunger that reached into his soul. Pain ripped through him as the priests cut shallow lines across his skin, releasing blood in precise patterns. He screamed the words he had been forced to memorize, his voice joining the others in a chorus not of worship but of survival. The binding ritual had begun. Hours stretched like eternity. The priests chanted, the boys bled, and the pit roared in hunger. One boy snapped under the strain, thrashing until the cords broke. He fell screaming into the darkness. The sound of tearing flesh echoed upward, then silence. The priests did not mourn. "The gods are pleased," one said coldly. Shamash's mind fractured under the weight of agony, but some part of him clung to memory. He thought of his sister's toy bird, of sunlight on the marketplace, of bread baking. These fragments of humanity kept him tethered as the ritual reached its climax. The priests invoked the final words, and the pit shuddered as though alive. Something immense pressed against the barrier, furious yet restrained. Then, with a sound like thunder underwater, the chamber fell silent. The binding was complete. The boys were hauled back, barely conscious. Only 4 remained alive. Their eyes no longer looked like children's eyes. In the days that followed, Shamash noticed the priests' whispers. Some said the ritual had weakened, that the hunger below was growing stronger, that one day no blood would be enough. He heard too that 3 boys had not truly died but still lived in the pit, twisted into forms that were neither human nor divine. Shamash felt his body failing, his mind dissolving, but one thought remained. If he died here, he would be forgotten, another nameless vessel. But if he resisted, even in memory, perhaps the truth would survive. The last thing he recalled was being placed in a chamber with tablets scattered around him. He scratched words with trembling hands, warnings for anyone who might uncover this place. He is beneath. Do not wake what sleeps below. His blood stained the clay as he carved. Centuries later, when Persian soldiers uncovered his bones, they could not understand the full horror. They only knew that even the mightiest empire of the ancient world had feared what lay beneath its temple. Babylon had fallen, but the hunger beneath remained, patient, eternal. The soldiers left with whispers in their ears, their courage broken. The treasure they sought was never found, because the true treasure was the secret of survival. The child buried among idols was not just a victim. He was a vessel, a warning, and a reminder that some rituals are better left forgotten. The city of Babylon crumbled into dust with time, but the black stone chamber and the pit still wait beneath the ruins. And every 13th moon, the hunger stirs again, waiting for voices to chant, waiting for blood to flow, waiting for the return of those who call themselves gods. And somewhere, perhaps even now, the whispers of Shamash Iddi linger in the silence, pleading with anyone who dares to listen. Do not wake what sleeps below.